Senator, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Pleased to have you tonight. So I'll start off by asking a question about our president. He is someone who you served alongside in the Senate. He was there when you arrived. So based on what you've seen of his term so far, is this the Joe Biden that you know? And is he the moderate? Has he so far been the moderate that the American people were promised?
Well, he's not been a moderate. Far, far, far from it. I would say probably further from it than I thought he would be, actually. But he was never really a moderate. He was always whatever the party position was. He came from a reasonably conservative Delaware. His strength was always being glib, and one wise Democratic staffer who had watched him carefully over the years said this. You can take it for what you like, but he said, well, Joe Biden, this was long ago before he became vice president, and he said, Joe Biden will never be president. And I'll tell you the reason why. He's always so glib. He's always got an answer for everything. He's always been able to talk his way out of every fix throughout his whole life. You know people like that. And but he never prepares sufficiently to be a serious candidate for the president. And that's why he's never done anything. You know, it fizzled a time or two already. And so I would say that about him. But obviously he's not functioning at the level that he needs to function at. And I think we need to begin to ask, who is running this country? Who are these people? You knew Reagan's top advisors, you know, and Reagan made decisions. So somebody's making decisions around there, I'm sure a lot of which he has no knowledge of, and we need to demand to know who it is.
Well, one policy area where the president's mismanagement has been front and center so far is immigration. Now, that's an issue where when you became Attorney General, I heaved a sigh of relief. Because I thought, finally, we got somebody who cares about the immigration issue in a position of power to do something about it. Now, do you think that we've seen the undoing of all the good work of 4 years on the immigration issue in just the last 10 months? Are we in a better place or a worse place now than we were in 2016 or 2017?
I think we're in a worse place. I mean, I see nothing getting fixed. The only thing that will happen is, and you need to know this, and I'm sure you do, patriots and experienced people that you are, the only thing that's going to cause the Democrats and the Biden administration to change is fear of having a revolt and losing Senate and House seats and the presidency next time. Fear of loss. And we need to dedicate ourselves to explaining to the American people this should never have happened. It's a colossal disaster of the most monumental proportions. You don't know how many legal and other political and lobbyists and financial powerful people had to be overcome to make as much progress as Trump made. And he was really beginning to get that thing under control. And it's all been given away. It's just so sad. I don't have words to express the enormity of this blunder. I mean, some people say they had to have intended exactly what happened because they had to have known that this was going to happen. And I think that's certainly a lot of them knew exactly what was going to happen. And if Trump had been reelected, I think, and he'd continued to make progress, we would achieve what the American people really want, which is a lawful system of immigration that serves the American interest, the American people's interest. Immigration should serve the national interest, not the special interest. So that's I will say that the key to it, as you see today, is really Homeland Security. They have the Border Patrol and the ICE officers, and they manage the border. And all what we committed to do was prosecute every case they brought to us. Everything they brought to the Department of Justice, we'd prosecute. And if my staff needed more people, we'd get it to them, our U.S. attorneys. But you really have got to have really, really strong, determined, relentless leadership, passionate leadership at the Attorney General's office, the presidency, and the Homeland Security. And the State Department, too.
Is there anything that can be done in the absence of that? If you don't have a strong pro-border leader in the Justice Department, is there anything else that can be done to alleviate that issue?
Well, there's some lawsuits ongoing that might bear fruit, but I think we need to see polling numbers move even more than they are. And the next election, we need to see some people go down to defeat. And that will make progress, but you're not going to get this administration to make progress unless they're forced to, in my opinion. They've already made their bed. They're trying to ignore it. They're hoping it won't rise up and bite them in a bad way, but I think it's likely to.
Well, since you brought up the next election, are you optimistic? Do you think the American people are going to deal the Democrats the defeat that they seem intent on earning?
Yeah, I hope so, and I think so. I think we'll have a better turnout. Traditionally, in the second year of an administration, you have big victories. You know, Obama had 60 senators. That's how he passed over the filibuster. He had 60 Democratic senators when he passed health care reform. So, but then he lost a ton of them. They lost the House, and they began a downward spiral there. So the people do, this is still a republic that requires support of the American people. And it's a slow, it doesn't happen overnight, but I'm not sure what would happen. But I think we can have a big victory, sizable victory, take the majority back in the House and the Senate. And I think that would cause them real concern. This governorship election in Virginia, was it The Hill or Politico had an article comparing it to McConnell's victory, the last victory in Virginia of a statewide Republican, I believe, or certainly governor. He won the second year of Obama's term, wasn't it? Yeah, second year of Obama's term. First year, really, of Obama's term. And this is the first year of Biden's. And if the Democratic state of Virginia were to flip and elect a conservative Republican, that would augur well for the House and Senate races nationwide, according to the article, and I think it's correct.
And also please the many Virginians we have on staff here at the American Conservative. They sure would be happy. Stepping back from electoral politics for a moment and going more big picture, at the American Conservative, we watch closely the realignment that people talk about within the Republican Party, how the party's shifting on some important issues. Now that's a movement and a change that you have been in a position to observe. And my first question on that subject is, how much of a realignment is it? Do you think that some of the new ideas that Trump brought in and that people who are trying to rethink old orthodoxies are bringing in, do you think they're really much of a departure from what Ronald Reagan would have believed, or do you think they're within the Republican tradition?
I think Reagan has been portrayed as far more ideologically pure than he probably was. He was a very humane person. He had conservative core beliefs, and it was a time of monumental victory for us, but there's still a lot of teenagers now named Reagan. There's a lot of people that loved Ronald Reagan. I'm going to tell you, they still do. So Donald Trump came in and he captured this. This is the deal. Newt Gingrich made a great speech about this before he became Speaker. I remember in 1981, I thought it was the greatest speech I'd ever heard. But basically, you have to appeal to a majority of the American people to win elections. And your appeals should go, as he said, to about 70%. Hopes to get 50. And you need to be pretty hard on the people you're running against and make sure they get the blame they deserve for the bad things they're doing. And that's how and then you can govern. And you need to govern means to carry out your agenda, not their agenda, okay? So I do think that half of the median income in America is $60,000 a year. Half of Americans make less than $60,000 a year. And we got a whole bunch of upper income leftist college professors who are lost to us. So to win any election, you got to do well among working Americans who love this country, who are basically conservative. I'm going to talk a little bit tonight. I hope I don't ramble. I wish it was a tighter argument, but the basic argument is, to me, is that it's conservative to want a lawful system of immigration and to end the lawlessness at the border. It's conservative to have a trade policy that protects the national interest and ensures that we have a shipbuilding industry, a steel industry, a high-tech industry, and those kind of things. We can't just say, well, they are 5 cents cheaper on some product or on a ship and we got to buy it from China. Give me a break. This is a nation state that's got to maintain its sovereignty and its integrity, and we got to have a foreign policy that is realistic, honest, protects American interests, strong national defense, but does not go off in endless wars that don't do any good, if actually often do harm to innocent people, have bombs dropped on them. So we should avoid that. So Trump got that, you know. And I had to move that way. I came in as, so yes, this is a potential for realignment. And if we let somebody slip in who does not understand the validity of the conservative movement and the importance of carrying out a conservative agenda, and we blow this thing, and we lose the lower income, working, patriotic Americans, honest, church-going people, and they don't come out in big numbers for us, we ain't winning. I'm telling you, we're not winning. So I think that Trump, how he got it, I have no idea. Billionaire from New York. One of my friends in Alabama, she was so great. She was wonderful. And we'd fought a gambling bill together. She was the head of the Eagle Forum. But she called me after I endorsed Trump. She said, Jeff, he's a casino operator. He was, you know. But anyway, he delivered on what he promised, didn't he? He delivered. And the people stayed with him. They're still with him. And so we don't need to lose those people. We can disagree on his style and how he did things, and every now and then he did some things I didn't agree with. But the man delivered on what he promised: good judges, lower taxes, less regulation, American energy, independence, fought immigration pretty hard. Maybe he could have done a few things better, but he did not wimp out on immigration. And trade, he stood up more on trade, and he he changed the dynamics on foreign policy. But what did I say? That's the coalition. That's the coalition. Y'all are pretty sophisticated. So after the Romney election, failed Romney election, they said in this conference, and I was in the meeting, I don't know why they invited me. Maybe they were trying to seduce me. But it was all about, we've got to be softer and gentler on immigration. We got to not be negative on trade. We've got to go in the world and be more moderate on things like abortion and social issues. And that's the only way to win. And I spoke up pretty strongly against that and said, well, that wasn't what Ronald Reagan did. The way Ronald Reagan won, he got a larger percentage of working Americans than we've ever gotten before, and that's how we need to win the next election, and which Trump basically somehow understood and did. He held the Republican vote, and he got swing, independent, even Democrats who were fed up, working people in larger numbers than we. He also got more Hispanics and more African Americans on a percentage basis, because he was talking about their jobs, their salaries, their livelihoods, their public safety. Did I talk too much on that? But I do think this is a big deal. Whoever we nominate needs to be able to run on a campaign theme that appeals to more than just upper income Americans. You got to appeal to all Americans.
It's one of the dangers of a realignment moment like the one we're facing is that you will have false friends, people who will try and talk a good game because they see that this is where the energy is, but their hearts haven't really changed. They don't really believe. Is that something that you worry about? Do you see people trying to
I worry about that.
to be
That is absolutely true.
It's gratifying that
I got it. One Republican told me one time, it was a long time ago, he probably changed a little by now, but it was, I believe in open borders. Another Republican told me about the steel industry. These people have been bugging me for years. When they finally closed the plant, it was good riddance. I don't have to deal with them anymore. You know? One time we had a conference in the Republicans about the economic plan. It was a good plan. One of our good senators presented it, and I raised my hand, and I said, some of you businessmen, I said, well, there's one thing that's missing. He said, what? I said, you do not say you want wages to increase. Now, most of you read the Wall Street Journal and the wages go up, you think that's bad, right? But a politician wants his wages of his constituents to go up. He wants their life to improve. It needs to go up more than inflation. And so for 20 years, wages increased less than inflation. And that's not a good thing to run for election on. So we got to, but I do think a lot of them began to understand a little bit of that during the Trump years in the campaign and in his time in office, and they saw polling data and they realized that they weren't going to win without the votes of a lot of working people, and they need to be more sensitive to their needs instead of treating them as deplorables of flyover country or something, ignoring them, meeting every day with somebody from Silicon Valley. So you can say that's populism, but as my great judge friend in Alabama said one time, there's nothing wrong with honest populism, honestly defending the interests of the American working people. It's a lot of dishonesty in the populist movement over the years. It's given it a bad name, but so I think the magazine, from its very founding, has been on top of all those issues, haven't they? I mean, it's really unusual. That's actually why it was founded, as a reaction against establishment, unhealthy alliances of special interest in politicians and even conservatives, so-called conservatives. The magazine has stood firm for principles that serve the national interest.
Well, we'll be wrapping up here soon in a minute, but we got some representatives in the audience, I believe, from the American Moment.
Yeah.
Sorab is
It's
here.
also Rob.
Yeah, Nick's probably off on his honeymoon or something.
Yeah, there. Nick. No.
But you sat down with them, those lovely boys, and had a lovely conversation with them for their podcast at the American Moment.
Yeah.
And you brought up something, or they brought up something that I found fascinating that I wanted to talk about here, which is your youth, your young days, how you came to conservatism and the Republican Party when Ronald Reagan was becoming president. And the reason I find that so interesting is that in the Alabama of those days, it was still a Democratic state. And it was almost a kind of realignment where you had voters who kind of belonged in one party, but because of sort of a hangover, they continued in loyalty to another. So you were an insurgent in some ways. waiting for the people of Alabama to come over to conservatism and the Republican Party, and for that realignment to come together. Do you have any lessons from those days for us now? What's the right attitude? Should we just hang in there? What's the right approach? What's your lesson?
Well, you always have to get better at your messaging and all, but I believe you tell the truth, and you tell it over and over and over again, and you don't back down, and you advocate as we did. You know, what held the Republican Party back so much was the Wallace machine. George Wallace was a powerful force, and we could never, it seemed like, overcome that. When I started, my wife, wherever Mary is that Mary back there? We just celebrated 39 years. No, well, more than that. So we founded the Huntington College Young Republican Club, first one ever been founded there. And it was just a democratic state. But so I had an English teacher who was brilliant, who said, Sessions, I'm worried about you. If you go off to college, they're going to lead you astray. You need to be armed. And I want you to start reading the National Review. So I think I had $9. That's what it was when it started. I think so. I had $9, and I bought it and read it with my dictionary. You know. So I told Buckley one time, you warped my brain as a teenager, and I never recovered from it, which is true. And so, you know, I was a presidential elector for Richard Nixon. We could win some congressional seats, a few of them we could win the president. But then there were only 2 Republicans in the entire legislature of Alabama. So I think we pretty much had a principled, conservative approach to government that appealed to, and as a Wallace regime went away, we were talking about integrity and against corruption and efficiency and productivity and all Republican principles that now every single elected official statewide in Alabama is Republican. Every member of the Supreme Court, they run statewide, all Republican. And I'm getting a little worried they might be getting a little fat and happy, you know. Like, what have you done for me lately is the politics rule. But they have done some great things, and we got some great judges, and Trump put out some great judges, and so we've made those progresses. But I think I told Sir Rob and Nick, you know, that just you believe, you know what you believe, if you advocate for it, it'll surprise you how far you can go, and people will respect you. And I think the Republican Party needs to realize that it represents all the people. And to be a governing party, you got to appeal to a large percentage of the people in America, and you have to try to serve their interest. And you have to remember that a lot of them don't have the ability to be a computer programmer, and they know it. And I teased them about being an entrepreneur. You know, a lot of my candidates said, everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. Everybody's not going to be an entrepreneur. Give me a break. Most people just would like a decent job with health care and a decent pay rate. So they don't want to be an entrepreneur. And if they were asked to be, they wouldn't be very good at it. And most of them, if you say, we want you to be an entrepreneur, wouldn't know what it meant to begin with. And if they did, they knew you weren't talking about them when you talked about it. So we got to message the truth about America. This is the greatest country in the history of the world. It lifted people out of poverty. It's given all kinds of people opportunities. We have freedom. We have prosperity. We have a constitutional order that still remains pretty good, and we need to defend it every day. And we got a legal system that most of the time works. So I think that we're on the right track still. But I got to tell you, I've been shocked by the damage that has been done by this administration to our republic. and we need to beat them in this next election. That's the only thing they understand, is to be sent packing. They'll understand that.
Well, it's a call to arms to all of you. Well, Senator, your conversation is so enjoyable that I will not monopolize it. I will allow you to continue or return to circulating. I hope you all join me in thanking Senator Sessions.
Thank you. Thank you.